Pretty much every organization out there, from your local coffee shop all the way up to a huge global bank, has built these digital fortresses to keep their data safe. But here's the real billion-dollar question. Are those walls actually strong enough? I mean, how do you really know if your fortress can hold up against a real attack?
It sounds like a simple enough question, right? But when you've got everything on the line, just hoping for the best, well, that's not really a strategy. You've got to be proactive. You have to test your defenses. So, what's the best way to actually do that?
Well, you basically turn the attacker's own methods right back at them. You go out and hire a team of ethical hackers. These are the good guys, and their job is to think and act exactly like the bad guys. Their whole mission is to find the cracks in your fortress, to show you where you're weak, but here's the key. It's all done inside a totally controlled, safe simulation. Okay, so this whole controlled simulation thing, it has a name you might have heard before, a war game. And it's not just a cool-sounding metaphor. The term actually has a pretty fascinating history. So, in the cybersecurity world, we call this a red team exercise. And the whole point, the entire goal, is to make this simulation feel as real as it possibly can. The red team, they don't just, pretend to be attackers. They become them. They're using the exact same tools, the same tactics, the same sneaky, creative thinking that real-world adversaries would use. And here's the really cool part. This whole idea, it's not new at all. The term red team was actually borrowed from military war games way back in the 1960s. See, the military figured out that to build a truly unbeatable defense, you had to understand the offense inside and out. And the cybersecurity world had this light bulb moment. They realized the exact same principle applies. To beat a hacker, you've got to learn to think like one.
All right, so if this is a game, then who are the players? Let's break it down and meet the teams on the field.
Okay, so it really boils down to a classic offense versus defense situation. In the red corner, you've got the red team. They're the attackers, right? They're creative, they're relentless, and they are always looking for a new way to get in. And then in the blue corner, you have the blue team, the defenders. These are the folks on the front lines, the ones watching the alarms, hunting for threats, and trying to slam the door shut before that red team can get through. But, it's not always about a big showdown. And that's where the purple team comes in. Now, it's not really a separate team, so much as it is a way of thinking, a collaborative function. Instead of a total surprise attack, think of it more like a live training session. The red team will say, hey, here's exactly how we got in, and the blue team can immediately start tweaking their defenses. It's all about improving, right there, on the fly.
Right, so you can't just unleash a team of hackers and hope for the best. This isn't the Wild West. An exercise this professional needs a really clear set of what we call rules of engagement to make sure everything stays safe and, productive.
And the absolute number one, completely non-negotiable rule is this: get permission. Seriously, without explicit written permission, you are not an ethical hacker. You're just a hacker. As one expert perfectly put it, you really don't want to end up in an orange jumpsuit. It's just not a good color on anyone.
So that written permission, it's all built around a formal contract we call the scope. And the scope is what defines the entire playground. It spells out what systems can be targeted, what techniques are allowed, and what is absolutely off limits. It's probably the single most important document in this whole process, because it's what keeps the simulation from causing any real-world damage.
So, what kind of rules are we talking about here? Well, the scope can cover just about anything. For instance, you might say certain countries are excluded from being targeted. Or maybe the CEO is off limits for phishing tests. You got to pick your battles, right? And you'd almost certainly make a retailer's e-commerce site out of bounds during the busy holiday season. You also define the timeline. Is this thing going to last for 3 days, or is it a 3-month-long campaign?
Okay, so we've got our teams, we've got our rules, we are ready to play. But in a war game like this, how do you actually win? The answer might not be what you think. Think about it. Is it a win for the red team if they get in and nobody even notices? Or is it a win for the blue team if they shut down the attack cold? How do you even keep score in a game like this?
Well, here's the twist. According to Patrick Fussell from IBM, the real score has nothing to do with whether the attackers get in or not. The true measure of success is how much the client's defenses improve because of the exercise. It's a total paradigm shift, right? In this game, the only real way to win is to help the other team get stronger. And just like any good game, you need referees to keep things fair and safe. In a cybersecurity war game, that's the control team. They're the small, trusted group inside the organization who are in on it. They know the game is happening. They're the ones who can step in and, throw a flag if the red team gets a little too close to a really critical system. They make sure the simulation never, ever puts the actual business at risk.
Okay, so we've looked at the teams, the rules, and the real goal of the game. But let's zoom out for a second. Why go through all this trouble? Why does a drill this complex matter so much? First off, it's super important to understand that this is not the same thing as a capture the flag competition or a CTF. A CTF is more like a cybersecurity puzzle. It's a fantastic way to test individual skills, for sure. But a red team exercise, that's a live fire drill. It's not about solving some pre-made puzzle. It's about testing your actual real-world defenses against a thinking, adapting adversary. One is a fun skills competition. The other is a genuine test of survival.
And that gets us to the absolute core of why this is so important. Companies spend millions, sometimes billions, on security tools, and they're all operating on one giant assumption, that all of it works. A red team's job is to smash that assumption to pieces. They exist to prove you wrong, to find those gaps between what you think is secure and what's actually secure.
Ultimately, that's what this whole thing is about. You really only have two choices. You can ask the hard questions about your own security right now, inside a controlled war game, or you can just wait and let the real adversaries ask those questions for you. And trust me, you are not going to like their answer. So the only question left is, which one will it be?